History has seen many commanders and kings who have engraved their names in golden letters. Each possesses legendary stories that have secured a place in history and resonate even in today's world. While some stand alone as symbols, others have preferred to lead from the very front of the ranks of heroism. Together, we will explore the life of one of those symbolic commanders, a man who became a legend, yet died alone and in poverty, Belisarius. One of the most remarkable figures of the Byzantine Empire in the 6th century is a personality worthy of study not only for his military victories, but also for his position within the political system. Emperor Justinian, who was deeply committed to the idea of restoring the Roman legacy, sought to realize this ideal throughout his reign both by reforming the law and by launching military campaigns to reintegrate the former Roman territories in the west into the empire. In this context, Belisarius would become one of the most influential figures through whom Justinian put this grand objective into practice. However, Belisarius's historical significance lies not only in the battles he won, but also in the web of political relations in which he was embedded. Against the backdrop of the Byzantine court's intricate structure, power struggles, and a landscape where personal loyalty and political interests were intertwined, the rise and fall of Belisarius gained meaning through the examination of both individual and structural dynamics. The reign of Justinian, 527 to 565, was a period of significant institutional and geographical reshaping for the Eastern Roman Empire. One of the emperor's primary objectives during this time was to realize the ideal of renovatio imperii, or the restoration of the empire, by reclaiming the former territories of the Roman Empire. Justinian's goal was supported not only by military victories, but also by religious unity and legal reforms. That Justinian's most vital initiative in the legal field, the Corpus Juris Civilis, did more than just consolidate internal order. It also reflected the empire's claim to a universal order. This legal reform provided a framework that legitimized the emperor's absolute authority, thereby forming the ideological foundation of his political objectives. Parallel to this, in an era marked by Monophysite controversies and internal Christian divisions, the desire to ensure religious unity would constitute a significant dimension of Justinian's centralization policies. The implementation of this comprehensive vision required a strong and loyal military command structure. It is precisely at this point that Belisarius's star began to shine. As both a talented strategist and a figure devoted to the court, Belisarius stood out as one of the few names capable of bringing Justinian's ideals to life on the field. However, this relationship would not rest on as stable or trust-based a foundation as it appeared at first glance. For in Byzantine politics, success often bred suspicion, and power could frequently clash with loyalty. Belisarius's rise within the Byzantine army was shaped by both his personal talent and the political and military needs of the time. In his early career, the wars against the Sassanids on the eastern frontier would make his military genius visible for the first time. His success at the Battle of Dara in 530 demonstrated that Belisarius was not just a battlefield commander, but one of the rare military leaders capable of implementing strategic thought on the ground. His victory at Dara against the numerically superior Sassanid army resonated widely within both Byzantine society and the court, turning Belisarius's name into a symbol of heroism. This success paved the way for him to assume a more central role within the imperial hierarchy. When the next target of Justinian's westward expansionist policy became the Vandal Kingdom in North Africa, the command for this strategic expedition was given directly to Belisarius. This campaign, which began in 533, would become a major turning point in both Byzantine military and propaganda history. Belisarius's landing in Carthage with a limited force and his swift defeat of the Vandals to annex the region to Byzantium would solidify both his courage and his exceptional organizational skills. However, this victory should not be evaluated solely as a military success. The reintegration of North Africa into the empire became the first tangible fruit of Justinian's renovatio imperii ideal. Consequently, Belisarius was positioned as the primary figure who had actually realized this ideal. Belisarius's victory would be utilized in imperial propaganda as a symbol of the revitalization of the Roman legacy. Indeed, during this period, it would be observed that Belisarius's name inspired great reverence among the people, both in Constantinople and in other centers of the empire, with popular support sometimes reaching levels that made court circles uncomfortable to this point. It would be observed that Belisarius was beginning to be perceived not only as a soldier, but also as a potential political figure. Although he had exhibited a cautious stance against court intrigues, it was patently clear that his victories and his reputation among the populace were evaluated as a threat within the paranoid nature of Byzantine politics. This situation would give rise to one of the most fundamental contradictions that would determine Belisarius's relationships with the court in the periods to come: the increasingly palpable tension between loyalty and power. Justinian's project to reconquer the West turned toward Italy following the fall of the Vandal kingdom in North Africa. Behind this reorientation lay not only a longing for historical legacy, but also the desire to reshape the strategic balance within the Mediterranean basin. Bringing Italy back under Byzantine dominion was critical for reinforcing the claim to being the legitimate heir of Rome, both politically and ideologically. The fact that this monumental task was once again entrusted to Belisarius would demonstrate that he maintained his position in the emperor's eyes. However, this campaign would usher in a process that was far more arduous and contradictory than previous victories. The Gothic Wars, which began in 535, constituted the longest and most complex front of Belisarius' military career. Following the swift conquest of Sicily, Byzantine forces advanced through southern Italy and pushed as far as Ravenna, the capital of the Ostrogoths. The capture of Rome in 536 would be regarded as a major symbolic victory, for this development signaled that the Eastern Roman Empire had reasserted not only its territorial control, but also its claim to historical legitimacy. However, this process would also demonstrate that victory does not always bring political stability. The war in Italy evolved not into a conventional front line, but into a series of exhausting conflicts characterized by sieges, rebellions, and counterattacks. Belisarius found himself not only fighting Gothic armies, but also managing relations with the local aristocracy and dealing with deep-rooted distrust toward Byzantine rule. Moreover, during this period, orders sent from Justinian's court were often shaped by political suspicion. Belisarius' authority was restricted, and logistical support was left insufficient. These developments may also be interpreted as a reflection of the structural distrust toward success within the Byzantine political system. However, the popular support that Belisarius gained in Rome led to him being perceived not merely as a commander, but as a potential political actor, something that caused unease within court circles. Finally, after the capture of Ravenna in 540, the fact that the Goths attempted to proclaim Belisarius as emperor of the Western Roman Empire, even though he himself refused this offer, further reinforced Justinian's suspicions. His subsequent recall was not merely a matter of military rotation, but a clear indication of the power dynamics within the empire that a campaign crowned with victory had become, for its commander, not a cause for promotion, but a source of suspicion serious enough to warrant removal. Thus, Belisarius' successes in Italy also marked the beginning of his political isolation. Belisarius' career points to one of the most striking paradoxes in Byzantine history. A commander who secured victories that determined the fate of the state was systematically marginalized by that very state's political apparatus. After returning to the court following the Italian campaign, Belisarius was sidelined for a time. However, due to the reemergence of the Sasanian threat on the eastern frontier, he was reassigned in 541. Nevertheless, compared to earlier periods, his authority was clearly restricted, and his military decisions were subjected to closer supervision. This situation reveals that he was regarded merely as an instrument of war, while being excluded from political trust. This period also highlights the deepening centralization in Justinian's style of rule. The emperor's desire to consolidate his power not only against external threats, but also against potential internal rivals, led to the marginalization of charismatic and publicly popular figures such as Belisarius. In this context, Belisarius' trial in 562 on charges of bribery and his brief imprisonment can be interpreted in terms of court politics as a form of character liquidation. Although he was pardoned shortly afterward, this episode effectively marked the end of his political life. From a historiographical perspective, Belisarius' tragic fall has taken on a mythological dimension over time, particularly in medieval Latin sources and later in Enlightenment-era Europe. The figure of Belisarius is represented by the legend of the loyal general blinded and condemned to beg. Although this narrative does not directly align with historical reality, it reveals, on a symbolic level, the culture of distrust within the Byzantine court and the lack of a systemic reward for personal loyalty. This legend, embraced by thinkers like Voltaire, stands as a tragic representation of individual virtue against the ruthlessness of authoritarian power. That Belisarius' life embodies both the last great commander of the Roman tradition and the structural insecurities of Byzantine politics. Neither a full-fledged dissident nor a pure victim, he leaves behind a legacy complex enough to call into question the very internal logic of the state. His story was written not only on the battlefields, but also on the fragile line between loyalty and power. The life of Belisarius constitutes an exceptionally valuable example for understanding the political, military, and ideological structure of the Byzantine Empire in the 6th century. In his persona, Justinian's ideal of restoring Rome was tangibly embodied. The limits and consequences of this ideal were observed in campaigns stretching from Dara to Carthage, and from Rome to Ravenna. However, Belisarius' turbulent career, lived not only as a military figure, but also as a political subject, reveals the deep-seated culture of mistrust inherent in the nature of Byzantine politics. Within Justinian's absolutist vision, Belisarius was viewed as both an indispensable tool and a potential threat. This dual perception led to his periodic exclusion from the court, the curtailing of his powers, and ultimately his discredit. This process is a historical example of the fragile relationship established between success and loyalty in Byzantine politics. In the person of Belisarius, it is observed how state interests and individual merits conflict, the dynamics through which the imperial structure functions, and the conditions under which personal loyalty can be rendered worthless. Historical memory has preferred to remember Belisarius not merely as a commander, but as a tragic figure. His story, especially in Western thought, has transformed into an allegory of the ancient tension between justice and power, and between loyalty and authority. In this respect, Belisarius has attained a universal representative power that transcends Byzantine history, gaining renewed significance in many intellectual debates, questioning the relationship between the state and the individual. Ultimately, the life of Belisarius reveals not only the military might of the Byzantine Empire, but also its political intellect and moral boundaries. His story is a historical projection of a world order that shows continuity throughout history, a world where victory does not always bring rewards, and loyalty often remains unrequited. See you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Primal Traces.